So I've been trying for a while now to figure out how to be more convincing and articulate. And I just realized that I was doing it all wrong because, by definition, convincing in the act of convincing, I am just the medium, and the effect or the result or whatever you call it is all about the other person, the person that I'm trying to convince. And what I'm doing instead is, by framing it in a way that I want to be more convincing, I'm making it about myself. And the moment I make it about myself, now I'm defeating the purpose of that convincing, because the only way for convincing or persuading to be really effective is it has to be all about the person who I'm trying to convince. And for that, it is important that I remove myself from the picture. So, if I want nothing, if it is a transaction for me, now I have got vested interest, I've got self interest, and I'm thinking from that perspective. Instead, if I want nothing from it, nothing from, not even for him to be convinced, if I take it a little further, if I take the whole idea of wanting nothing from that interaction personally, as in I want nothing and it's just about you, so I don't even want you to be convinced, because, well, at the end of the day, you have to decide. And if you decide that this is not the best thing for you, well, that's perfectly okay. And it's not just saying it for the purpose of rhetoric. You need to really, if you're doing it with the right intention, then you actually believe it. So when you come into that interaction with that mindset, what you're doing is you are just offering a perspective to the other person. When that happens, he can sense, when somebody is talking out of self interest versus when somebody is offering a perspective, a side of the picture that he hadn't seen himself, then ultimately what you're doing is you're just aiding him in making his decision. So the you goes out of the picture, and that way you're really helping the other person instead of trying to become more convincing. And counterintuitively, when you remove yourself from the picture, you end up being more successful in convincing the other person. Because, well, when you talk out of selfish motives, people understand that, people can sense that even on a subconscious level. And, you know, in that way, I'd quote somebody, I don't remember where I read this, but or heard this, but people are smarter than we give them credit for. And there are people that lie and get away with it or become successful with it, convince people knowing that it's not the best thing for them, or convince others with their own self interest. But I figure that being honest about it to yourself and to the other person is actually far easier, far less burdensome, because then by definition you're not attached to the result. If the other person doesn't act like you think, well, you didn't care to start off with, so it doesn't matter to you. So yeah, that's about convincing somebody instead of becoming more convincing or becoming more articulate. That's where the focus should be.